The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, good evening. It is Jeff Watson, and thank you so much for joining us on this first of two live webinar training calls on part of the Flip Right 2016 Learn How to Flip Houses the Legal Way. And folks, tonight I'm going to focus on how to find deals, part one. And in a few moments I'll be joined by my fellow panelist and compadre in many things, Mr. Brian Mira. But until he is able to clear the technical issues and get sense of calm restored, we're just going to plow right on ahead. So I need to know a real quick audio check. So quickly, if you are hearing me loud and clear, please raise your hands. Okay, we got a hand up in the air. We got a couple of hands up in the air. There we go. There we go. Rolling in now. Excellent. Okay, loud and clear. We're good to go. Okay, so folks, here's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to make this a very powerful, compact presentation on how to find deals. This is part one of a two-part series. And so the first thing I want to talk to you about is you have to employ the rule of the herd. That's right, folks. You have to be aware of the rule of the herd, and you have to do the opposite. If the thundering herd of real estate investors, wholesalers, and wannabes is going towards that direction, you need to go to this direction. If they're going to zig, you zag. You must be unconventional. All right, so that beeping noise may bode the fact that I'm being joined. I'm not sure. All right, so you've got to be unconventional. You've got to do the things that are not popular. If you're going to do the same thing that every other wholesaler, every other investor, every other good deal-finding guy or gal is looking for, you're going to get lost in the white noise of it all. You have to be different. You have to be different. Okay, it's absolutely crucial that you're different. You've got to do things that they wouldn't do. And we're going to talk about a couple of strategies. I'm going to give you some very specific strategies that other people are not doing. Okay? All right. All right. So, do the unconventional. Zig when they zag. Be unpopular. Do not do what everybody else is doing. Do not be out there putting your bandit signs to compete with everybody else's bandit signs. No, instead, you've got to do things differently. And I'm going to give you an example. You've got to have a simple online presence. Yes, you do have to have an online presence. You need a simple web page with an easy-to-use contact form that gets to you right away. If somebody wants to sell a house and they want to do it online and they want to find out more about you online, they've got to have an easy-to-use contact form, get it to them. You need to have legitimate testimonials and a short video of you. Yes, you. And folks, I'm going to tell you this right now. I see this mistake made by so many people. It is absolutely vitally important that you spend time on that script. That script should probably be no more than 40 seconds. You should practice it. You should rehearse it. You should make sure that you double check everything. You should make the script in writing with large text and space it out and put it right next to the camera so that you're looking right into the camera as you're doing that script. And folks, for 40 seconds, you can memorize it because you're talking about your favorite subject, you and buying houses. And so you've got to do it right. Do not cheap out and do not wing it. Do not think that just you're going to be able to show up and wing this thing because, oh, you've got that thing and so it's, don't do that. You've got to be ready. You've got to be ready, and you've got to just take over for it and do that. Okay, so now I've got to check to see if we can, I'm trying to see if I can find the magic button to get my co-host, my co-panelist in here, and
Yes.
There you are, finally. Praise the
What's
Lord,
up,
we
man?
got you. We got you.
Technical difficulties, man. Well, you got to love technology, right?
You got to love technology, but you have to have the attitude of I will overcome.
It's all good. We're here. I'm here. We're all good.
Adapt, improvise, and overcome, folks, okay? You got to do it. You've got to commit to doing it the right way. And Brian, I was just talking about an online presence, and I know that that's one of the things that you've used quite successfully. I'm talking about having a simple web page with an easy-to-use contact form, legitimate testimonials from people that you've actually done business with, and a short video of you. Okay, a short video. Folks, if you're running the sign, if you're running a business that says Brad buys houses, I'm picking on one of my friends who I know is on the call. He lives out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so he knows who I'm picking on. If Brad buys houses, it better be a video of Brad.
Right.
It better not be a video of some, paid-for actor reading for Brad. No, that doesn't work, okay? You got to have an online presence. You got to do it right. Now, a couple of other key things that we have to talk about here, and that is, I'm going to go right into this now. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to go straight at it. There's an untapped or barely tapped source of leads in a hot market. Folks, it's probate leads with out-of-town, particularly out-of-state heirs, okay? And this is where the clients of mine that are getting the good deals, this is where they're getting them. Out-of-state owners who have just recently inherited the property. Okay, now you're going to say, well, but Jeff, that's so much work. I got to do something to get that information. Yeah, you're right. Okay? You're going to have to spend some time down at your probate court. You're going to have to start looking at files. Because you're not going to be able to just go buy some bulk list and run it through some mail house and sit back and then go, well, how come my phone isn't ringing? Well, because you didn't target your mailing. Because you didn't spend the time to make sure that you're using a mailing campaign only going to out-of-state heirs, the attorneys that represent them, and the fiduciary of the out-of-state. If you've got a probate mailing where it shows that the person died and their spouse is still alive and still living in the house, that's not as hot of a lead as it is when grandma died, all the kids are out of the state, hundreds if not thousands of miles away, no family in the area, and they just want to do one thing. They want the problem solved. They want the house sold. So you've got to use a consistent mailing campaign, and you've got to make sure that in that letter, in the postcard, whatever device you use to mail, you've got to explain how you can solve their problem. Because, Brian, am I right? It's about the audience that you're talking to. It's not about your need for a house. It's about their need to have a problem fixed.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. And, it's funny, Jeff, because that's one of the things that a lot of newer investors really struggle with is, they'll start contacting leads, whether they bought them, whether, someone referred a lead to them, and they're always really concerned about, well, why would this person sell me the house undervalued? If it's worth X, why would they sell it to me for Y? And I always explain to them, well, if you lead in your call with, sir, I know your house is worth $120,000 and I'm going to buy it from you or I'm going to offer you $80,000, they're going to hang up the phone. So getting into the personal relationship, finding out their point of pain and figuring out why they need to sell, why they want to sell, finding out what the problem is, and then becoming a problem solver and showing how you're a solution to the pain in their life, that's the only way to go about it. So you're 100% right, Jeff.
Yeah, folks, it's not a real estate problem. It's a people problem that you're trying to solve. The house just is a symptom of the problem. And I'm going to elaborate on that some more, because when you get into this, you've got to think about it from a relationship marketing standpoint. You need to begin building a relationship. And I'm going to talk about your BLT factor in a little bit, and I'll explain what that is. But folks, here's something else you got to do. You got to build relationships. That means you got to attend your local RIAs, your meetups, and other places that investors congregate. You got to get there. You have to introduce yourself and hand out cards. I have lost track of how many times I've been to real estate meetings, and I have a, quote, newer investor there, and I want to get to know them, and I give them one of my cards, or they ask me for one of my cards, and I say, I'll give you mine if you give me yours, and they get this sheepish look on their face. They're there without cards. What do you think I'm going to do? Do you think I'm going to take the time to get a piece of paper and write down your contact information because I think that you're such a great person because you can't get organized, because you don't have cards? No, I'm going to blow you off, okay? You got to be able to hand out cards. Now, you got to do a couple of other things, okay? Tell them, when you meet people at these events and these associations, tell them what you do. I buy houses, okay? I'm looking for deals on houses that make sense for me to buy and that fit my investment parameters. Okay, I'm looking for deals that make sense. Immediately, you sound like somebody who's thought about what you're doing. Oh, and by the way, folks, this is a really good elevator speech. If you don't have anything else to use for your elevator speech, this is it. Well, what do you do? Well, I'm looking for deals on houses that make sense for me to buy, and they have to fit my investment parameters. Whoa, well, what are your investment parameters? And then you better know what they are, okay? And do not say that you're a newbie. And do not say that you're a wholesaler. I mean, it happens every meeting I go to. There's brand new wholesalers there. I know you're there. I understand it. You're getting started. I was brand new one time in my life too. I got it. I hear you. But folks, don't advertise that you're a wholesaler, because that's not what you're going to spend your life doing. Okay? You're going to spend your life building wealth. And to do that, you're looking for deals that make sense for you to buy and that fit your investment parameters. And you're looking to build long-term relationships, not a quick flip relationship. Okay? Brian, do you have anything you want to share on that?
No, Jeff, I mean that's the key. I mean, the reality is, and I'm glad you touched on it, because I'm sure there's a lot of new people either listening to this live or going to hear the replay, and one of their biggest concerns is, well, Brian, Jeff, I don't know what to say because I'm brand new, and I can't say I have experience if I don't have it. I don't want to lie, and that's okay. But here's the thing. You don't need to wake the dead, okay? So if you, in my personal opinion, and the way I've always coached people is, act as if you're there at a networking event, you're at a re-event, you're exchanging cards, talk about what you're doing, talk about, who you are, what you're looking for, just like Jeff said, but you don't have to volunteer information they don't ask for. So if you're brand new, if you have no experience, if you've never wholesaled a deal, if you've never even done a deal, we're not telling you to lie, but there's no reason to volunteer certain information. The way you present yourself in a positive, confident manner, people are going to assume that you're something that you're not, and you're not lying. It just becomes a matter of the way that people assume who you are. So if you're there, you have a big smile on your face, you're confident, you're positive, you're giving out your card, like Jeff said, people are not going to ask you, well, are you brand new? Have you ever done this before? So unless you actually offer that information, they're not going to know. So do not tell them. Don't wake the dead. Right, Jeff?
Exactly, Brian, exactly right. Don't wake the dead. In fact, I put out here this thing. Your answer to the question, well, how many deals have you done? Not as many as I'd like to.
Exactly.
And then, Brian, just do like you said, laugh. Just like that. Not as many as I'd like to, and laugh, and then move on. Because if the guy that has to tell me, well, I've done 75 deals in the last 3 years, and okay, what's that mean? Does that mean you think you know it all? Because the guy who thinks he knows it all, or the gal who thinks he knows it all, is the person who scares me. Some of the best minds that I know, that I'm privileged to hang out with in the real estate space, they are always learning more. They're always learning more.
And they're the most humble, right, Jeff?
Oh, they're by far the most humble. They're by far the most humble. I mean, and I got to tell you, folks, it's an honor for people like that. It's an honor for me to be able to say that they actually are a friend of mine. I'm like honored that they're friends of mine. And I'm like, wow. So, all right. So let's talk about this. Folks, I'm going to tell you, there's a fantastic way to find leads off of Craigslist and newspapers, but not in the way you think it is. You're not looking for houses for sale. Instead, you're looking for the advertisements for garage sales, yard sales, and moving sales. Now listen to me carefully as I go through this, because this is gold. This is gold, gold, gold. I've had students test this now and start using this in one of the hottest markets in America, and they're getting deals. They're getting deals in the hottest markets, one of the hottest markets in America. They're getting deals in the Denver, Colorado area, the Fort Collins, Colorado area right now because of this. Because they've realized that many people who are having this sales are preparing to downsize and or move. If you're preparing to downsize or move, what does that mean? That means you're going to have to sell your house. And that means you need to ask Pete's famous question. You have to ask Pete's famous question. Pete's famous question is this: why would anybody want to sell such a nice house as this? And then I'm going to tell you, like Pete would tell you, shut up and listen. That's right, shut up and listen. Okay? My friend Bill from North Georgia, he's good at this. Oh, he is so good at this. Just watching him in action is just something else. I mean, he is so good at this. To watch him teach this and so on, because he asks the question and then he listens, and he cocks his hip and he slouches a little bit, and he's getting there to where he's in a receptive, humble position, and he wants to hear them say. And so he's beginning to build that relationship just with his body language and his listening after that one question. Why would anybody want to sell such a nice house like this? And I'm going to tell you what, folks, sometimes you're going to have to ask that question a second time. Sometimes you're going to say, I heard what you said, but I still don't understand. Why would you want to sell a nice house like this? And wait again. Now, you're going to say, well, Jeff, I'm scared to death to do this. Well, wait a second, folks. You forgot the context. You're standing in their garage. You're standing in their yard. You're standing in their driveway, and they've got stuff for sale. They've invited the world to come buy stuff from them. Of course you can ask. Of course you can ask. Now, they may say, oh, we're just cleaning out some stuff. We're not moving. Great. Then don't ask the question, but find out, well, why are you having the yard sale? Why are you having this? Why are you having the garage sale? What a great neighborhood, you know? And they're going to look at you and they might say, yeah, it's going to be a shame when we have to move out of here. And there's your door. There's your opening. There it is. Run with it. Okay? If you think you're going to be successful in today's market by sitting there in your pajamas at your laptop all day long, slurping down some mocha frappuccino that you bought the day before, and you're going to do all your online bidding and buying, you're nuts. If you're not going out, if you're not looking at people in the eye, if you're not belly to belly with them, you're not going to get deals. So I've given you, Brian and I have shared with you nuts and bolts about how to do this. Okay, we've given you 3 practical ideas. And now here's a killer knockout idea. If you're going to go to a garage sale, if you're going to go to a yard sale, and definitely if you're going to a moving sale, you have to be prepared. You need to have a postcard with your contact information on one side, Brad buys houses, and room to write a brief offer on the other side. I'll pay X dollars cash for your house, close in 21 days. Hand it to them. They're ready to move. They're thinking about moving. You say, well, when you're ready to move, give my offer consideration. I'll pay X dollars cash, and I can close in 21 days. Folks, you do that. You do that on a Friday. You start doing that on Thursday mornings, Friday mornings, and Saturday mornings at moving sales and garage sales and yard sales, and I guarantee you, you'll get deals. Brian, you want to jump in on this?
Well, I don't know if you specifically mentioned it, but a lot of times people will promote an estate sale. And if you're looking in your paper, if you're looking online for estate sales, well, guys, that's one of the best places to go. In addition to what Jeff is saying, an estate sale is when someone died, unfortunately. So they're getting rid of the contents. I mean, and the people generally sitting there in the garage, in the driveway, they're assuming the house, and they don't want it necessarily. So people go out and they say, oh, I'm going to get in the probate business. Oh, let me find probate leads. Let me talk to a probate attorney. And that's fine and well. But if you're willing to be aggressive, you're willing to get dressed and get out there and, like Jeff said, have your postcard, have something, blank on the back where you can write on it. Keep a pen with you. You're going to be talking to the sellers 9 times out of 10. And it's one of the most effective ways to do business.
Exactly. And folks, here's the neat thing about it. Who are you talking to? You're talking to the seller, or you're talking to somebody who's either married to or related to the seller. You're not talking to an agent. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, if you go there, if you go to an estate sale, if you go to a moving sale, and there's a for sale sign from a real estate agent already in the yard, guess what? You need to make sure you talk to the agent. Don't try and go around them. And at that moment in time, you're going to be like, okay, it's a moving sale. They're really moving. I missed this one. I should have got there when they did their first garage sale. Okay. May have a quick conversation. Ask them how long the house has been on the market. Ask them if how things are going. Are they sick and tired of people trooping through their house? Are they waiting for someone who'll just buy the house as it is? Because, Brian, as you know, in a lot of estate sales, a lot of moving sales, a lot of people haven't brought their house up to where it's spit, shine, polished, looking glamorous and gorgeous. And you've got a lot of buyers out there running around with their nose up in the air going, oh, I want pristine, but I want it cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get around. You got a chance here with these folks, okay? So
Jeff,
let's cover.
Can I add one thing to that real quick?
Absolutely, please do.
So being a licensed agent myself, I can tell you this. If the family, in the case of a probate where somebody died and it's an estate sale, is listing the house, so they've already contacted an agent, they've already listed it on the open market. Now they decide, well, you know what, we have all these contents, the furniture, we're going to get rid of. They have an estate sale. So they've already decided to list the house. They're already committed to pay, let's just say, 6% to move the house. You contacting the listing agent direct, not only is it the right thing to do and the proper thing to do, but you have to understand something, and if you're not aware, when a listing agent lists a house, 97% of the time, a buyer's agent, another realtor brings the buyer, and they got to split the commission and pay out 3%. So they keep 3, they pay out 3. So if you're contacting them as a buyer, a cash buyer, they're going to love to talk to you because they're going to keep all the commission. Right, Jeff?
You're exactly right. They're going to get paid twice as much for the same amount of work.
You're going to be the best phone call they've ever had all day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. I really am. Okay, so folks, here's what I want to talk about now. As you understand, we've talked about finding deals is about relationship marketing. Whether you're mailing for probates and you're talking about how you're going to solve their problem, that's a relationship building. Whether you're going to a moving sale, yard sale, garage sale, estate sale, and you're there and you're asking the question, why would anybody want to sell such a nice house? Brian, it's interesting. As soon as I said that, I caught myself cocking my hip and taking the pose like Bill from North Georgia has taught me. It's you get into these habits, folks. You do these things enough, you get there. I mean, I look in that question. I love looking at the befuddlement on somebody's face, and the more confusion I see on their face, the more I know the first answer they're giving me is not the truth. So I know I have to ask it a second time. So we're talking about relationship, but in part of building relationships is this. You've got to know what your BLT factor is. Okay? You've got to know what your BLT factor is. Do people believe you? Do they like you? And do they trust you? Because people want to do business with, people want to sell houses to people that they believe, like, and trust. Can I get an amen?
Amen for me, man. Now,
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Can I add one thing to that? It's very important. A lot of times people, when it comes to appearance, we talk about believe, like, and trust. Well, like becomes a matter of the personality, and if you're a likable person, if you're relatable, if you're coming up to them as a normal human being, you're engaging in normal conversation, et cetera. But the believability factor, I want to say one thing, and I know I've talked to a lot of people who really confuse this part. They think that they have to play the part. They have to show up to that garage sale. They have to show up to that estate sale wearing a suit and a tie. Well, that's just kind of weird, because if it's a Saturday morning and it's 87 degrees out and you show up wearing a suit and tie, people are automatically going to feel defensive towards you. They're going to think, well, what the hell is this guy, what's this guy doing or this girl doing wearing all decked out? So, and I'm not saying to wear flip-flops and wear like dirty shoes and be unshaven and look like a slob, but just look professional, that business casual look. So you're not completely going fishing look, but you're not suit and tie. You're just, you look like a professional. You're there, you have a nice shirt on, you have a nice clean pants or shorts, and you're there representing yourself as a professional. It's just, I think that has a lot to do with it, Jeff, and I know a lot of people have asked me about that, so I want to bring that up. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I would completely agree. I would completely agree that you've got to dress the part. And that part is that you're showing up looking at a yard sale, looking at a garage sale, and so you're showing up dressed for that. It's a Saturday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, comfortable, casual, getting in and out of your vehicle, many times looking appearance, okay? And you're there to try and strike up a conversation. You're there to see if they've got anything good to buy or if they're got anything good to sell, and you go from there. And folks, you've got to do these things. You've got to practice these things, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now. If this is completely brand new and foreign to you, I'm going to tell you right now, I want you to write this down. I want you to practice asking the question, why would anybody want to sell a nice house like this? And practice getting into, turning slightly sideways, so you're not confrontational, you're not straight at them confrontational, you're turning slightly sideways, you're cocking a hip, and you've stepped back from them, but you can still close enough to where you can hear what they have to say, and you're looking at them, and practice that in front of a mirror. Practice that with another trusted friend or family member. Get comfortable doing it, because that's going to help you find and get deals. Okay? So now, Brian, what we're going to do, if it's all right with you, is I'm going to jump over here and we're going to just quickly see how many questions we've got, and if we have any questions. Yes.
Let me just say one thing. What you just offered right there is a literal $1 million question. Why would anybody want to sell such a nice house as this? Why would anyone sell such a beautiful house like this? And saying it, like you said, not looking at them in the eye, shoulder to shoulder, like confrontational, but just kind of like, turning your shoulders like in a non-confrontational way, the whole NLP thing, and just asking them that. It generates a response which they're going to have to respond to. They can't ignore it. They have to respond. And so what's going to come out of that response, guys, is it's going to be the truth. When Jeff talked about before, if I have to ask this question, then I'm going to have to ask a follow-up to get to the truth. But when you ask a direct question like that, and if you know how to position your body and the body language, and you're not confrontational, you're just asking, why would anybody want to sell such a nice house as this, or such a beautiful house like this? And you just kind of turn a little bit, they're going to answer you, and it's going to be a legitimate response. Well, you know what, Brian, or Jeff, my uncle died, or my mother died, and we're trying to get rid of this stuff, and we have to get rid of the house, and they're going to be honest 9 times out of 10. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
I completely agree. And I mean, I got to credit. That to me is a fantastic question that I learned from Pete, and that is, okay, why would anybody want to sell such a nice house? And then you've got to listen.
Yep.
Okay?
Exactly.
You've got to listen. And folks, by the way, I got a little housekeeping thing I got to do before I run over and see if anybody's hit me with any questions here. Little housekeeping thing, and that this recording is the copyright production of the Jeffrey S. Watson Law Firm Limited, 2016, and all rights are reserved. Any rebroadcast, any usage of this without the express written consent of the Jeffrey S. Watson Law Firm Limited is expressly prohibited. And I want to thank you for your patience as I have to do that legal bit of mumbo-jumbo. Now, folks, it is getting to the point where I've covered everything I wanted to cover in the slide presentation. I'll just check real quickly to see if there's any questions. And if there are questions, I want to answer them. And right now I'm waiting to see if anybody's going to type them in. And right now, I'm going to give you guys a little time. So go ahead and put in a question or two if you can, please, and we'll take it from there. Now, Brian, in the meantime, while they're typing in some questions, because it looks like I see a couple people, evidence of a couple people covering here, I want to go back and I want to ask you about another thing here, and that is, I want to ask you your opinion, because I know you've had tremendous success with this regarding an online presence, okay? I want you to tell me what it is that you think makes a successful online presence versus a failure or a flop of an online presence.
Easy, easy. I don't have to think about it. If you want to be relatable online, and we're talking about now, specifically social media, guys. So if you're talking about Facebook, if you're talking about YouTube videos, if you're talking about Snapchat, Instagram, you name it, fill in the blank, Twitter, the best way for you to be relatable to people is very simple. It's just be yourself. Don't try and be something you're not. Don't try and be some big superstar, big shot. Regardless of how much success you've had or haven't had, don't try and fake it. There's a lot of, how can I put this? I believe in the age-old adage of fake it till you make it, and I get that. Of course, you don't want to offer, like we talked about before, that if you're brand new, just don't offer it up, and I get that. But when it comes down to making a video, making a Facebook post, making a post on social media, just be who you are. Most of you people, I would assume 99% of you are good people. You're trying to get out there. You're trying to make a better life for your family. You're trying to improve your circumstances. Just talk about who you are. If you curse or cuss, depending on what part of the country you come from, let it slip out. I can't believe this shit, and I know some people, I can't believe you said that. Listen, the right people are going to relate to you. Just be who you are. One of the most liberating things in this world is just to be authentic. And I really firmly believe that people are so tired of being sold. People are tired of being had. People are tired of being, proposed to about this and that, buying a house. Just be who you are. If you're a good person, if you're trying to do a good thing, be authentic. Be a genuine human being. One of the biggest things I've always credited to myself is why I've always had so much success in marketing, online marketing, etc., is because I'm just Brian. Yes, I've had some tremendous successes in my life. God has blessed me tremendously, but I'm just Brian. I come across like a normal human being because I am. That's who I am. When I hang up the phone after doing a webinar with thousands of people on there or speaking on stage, I'm just Brian. My kids know me as Daddy, and trying and just being that person who you are when nobody's watching. Being the same person, whether there's someone listening to you, watching you, or not, is the best way to be authentic. Just be who you are. And trust that if you're a good person and you're putting out good value and you're trying to help people, that it's going to come through. That's the best tip I can give everybody. Because you know what, Jeff? A lot of times people think, well, okay, I'm going to start making posts on Facebook, and I'm going to start making these videos, and I'm going to get on this Snapchat thing or Instagram or YouTube, and I'm going to start making these videos and posting about myself. And they try to be something they're not, and they try and, put on this show, and you can just tell literally by the words they're writing, by watching their video, that they're forcing it, they're faking it. Guys, it's not worth it. It's a lot of effort. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to feel, insecure. Put all that aside. Just be who you are. And people are either going to like you or not, and you can't control that. But the right people are going to be attracted to you, and you're going to have a tremendous amount of success. That's the only thing I can give, Jeff. What do you think about that?
I think that is extremely valuable advice. Folks, that is tremendous advice. You've got to listen to it. This is a guy who is successfully, he's way better than I am online. Brian, there's no doubt about it. Brian's far better than I am online. My claim to fame, folks, is really simple. I'm not a marketer. I'm just a content guy. That's all. I'm just a content guy. I'm a guy people call when they got a problem, and I try and help them fix it. Speaking of that,
you're a hell of a nice guy, Jeff. And most people, all people who know you, love you and respect you. So that's what you got going for you, man.
Well, that's very kind of you. Here's a question that came in from Steve. Steve asked this question. He said, Jeff, what is the best type of entity to use to wholesale? And Steve, that's a great question, and it's a little off the topic of our call tonight, but I'm going to answer it anyhow because the best type of entity that I can recommend that you use to wholesale, which would be to buy and resell houses, I would recommend that you use a limited liability company electing to be taxed as a subchapter S entity. And if it's just you that's in business, depending upon what state you're in, you might be okay as a single member LLC, but if you're in certain states, such as California, Colorado, or Florida, I would highly recommend that you have a spouse, other trusted family member, or somebody else that you can trust be a 5% owner so that it becomes a multiple member LLC. You own 95%, they own 5%, you're in control, but it's a multiple member LLC because certain states, the ones I've named, single member LLCs are not that good for asset protection purposes. But for asset protection purposes and tax strategies, a LLC electing to be taxed as a sub-S corporation is the best way to go.
Jeff,
So, Steve,
can I ask you to
Yeah.
clarify something? Thanks, man, because you know what? I've actually had a lot of people ask me this, and frankly, I didn't know how to answer. I'm not an expert like you. I always recommend it exactly what you said, LLC, taxed as a subchapter S, and you always mentioned, if not, correct me if I'm wrong, member managed, right? Is that correct?
I'm okay with it being member managed, yes, because the member is actually involved in the deal, yes.
Okay, but you always, from what my conversations with you were, you always said make it a multiple member. But the question always came to me, and I'm glad this came up because, and I'm asking this kind of live, so I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. People always said, well, Brian, I don't have a spouse. I don't have a partner, so it's just me. So what do I do then? So how would you answer that?
Do they have an adult child? Do they have an adult parent? Do they have a favorite aunt or uncle that they want to gift 3 to 5% to? Something along that line. And if they're saying, Jeff, I'm absolutely, completely alone in the world and I don't have anybody else and I never will have anybody else, then there's a very sophisticated strategy. It's form another company, a corporation, get its tax ID number, and then have that corporation own the other 5% and you own 95%. And then it's a legitimate situation there, but you've got the extra complications of different tax returns. And so that's where it works really good with spouses. It makes it real easy. Parents that are retired, it's easy, good. Okay, but it all can work out that way.
Okay,
so that's,
so just to recap, what are the states that you highly recommend that it's a multiple member state? I know you rattle off like a couple of them, but what are they again?
Okay, the 3 states that I am the most concerned about, the 3 states I'm the most concerned about with single member LLCs are Florida, Colorado, and California.
And without
the reason
a huge legal discussion, can you explain why a little bit for the people?
Sure. Okay. In all 3 states, there have been court decisions that have questioned or flat out ripped a hole in the asset protection characteristics of a single member LLC. For example, in Florida, there was a case involving the Federal Trade Commission getting a judgment against some guy, some online scammer, and I can't remember the guy's name right now. It would come to me. And he had a single member LLC, and he was kind of like thumbing his nose at the FTC saying, you can't get me, you can't get me. The FTC says, yes, we can, and they get the Florida Supreme Court to rule that they have the right to step in and take everything out of the entity. Because the Florida Supreme Court looked at the Florida statutes and said, you know what, the Florida statute, the way it was written for single member LLCs isn't the same as multiple member LLCs. Single member LLCs don't have that creditor protection that multiples do. And you've seen similar but not nearly as devastating decisions coming out of the bankruptcy courts in Colorado and California. And I hope I wasn't too geeky nerdy with all that long answer.
So FTC, Florida, California, and Colorado.
Because of the Federal Trade Commission, it just was almost on the tip of my tongue. There was an FTC case. FTC, Federal Trade Commission, brought a case against somebody in Florida. And then there were 2 bankruptcy cases, one in Colorado, one in California, that questioned the asset protection worthiness under those particular state laws. But in
Right.
every state, a multiple member LLC has always survived every challenge.
Dude, that's huge. First of all, thank you so much for that. And the only reason I asked that, I said FCC because the way I remember my brain is acronyms. So if I can remember FCC, which most people can, Florida, California, Colorado, that's where you have to really pay attention. So is it safe to say that in other states, if you really truly don't have somebody else, you might be okay as a single member, or no?
Say that again, buddy.
So other than Florida, California, and Colorado, is it safe to say that if you're a single member LLC, that you might be okay in that case, or no?
Yes, but here's what I would tell you. Here's what I would tell you. So far, so good. So far, so good. But don't you be the problem child in another state that screws things up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Don't you be the problem child that's going to go out there and get in trouble with, with some government agency, and they're going to chase you down and try and bust up your LLC. Do it right. Don't be that problem child.
Gotcha.
And just from that simple perspective. And I'm going to tell you this, folks, if you have a very successful business that is routinely making nice six-figure income, you'll have no shortage of people who want to have a piece of it. And that's how you're going to do it. You'll have no shortage. So
Thanks,
you can take it from there.
That's a huge help. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I mean, I just kind of came up with another idea. I mean, you could literally, when you get a business cranking out that good, that big, you may want to say, listen, we're going to create an employee stock program where I'm going to let the people who are working for me have a piece of the action, and all of a sudden you've got a multiple member LLC. So you're good in that respect. All right, so hey, Brian, can you believe it, but time has absolutely flown by on us, and we need to wrap this thing up.
It always does, my friend.
Yep. All right, we got one more question that just shot in here. Let me see if I can handle it okay. Okay, so with a wholesale deal, what are the requirements when marketing your contract for sale? Oh yeah, good question. Are you allowed to include the home, address, pictures, etc.? Can you market the full price you need to clear your purchase price plus wholesale, or is marketing your contract for sale also a no-no? Let me answer it backward. Marketing your contract for sale is a yes. You can always market what you own, and you own the contract. So that means that when you have a property under contract and you do not own it, that you can market your contract. But that means that you should not, I repeat, should not be using pictures of the house and address of the house in your broadcast, public communication, and advertising. Now, when you find somebody who's interested in buying your contract or stepping into the your contractual shoes, they're going to obviously have a legal right to look at the contract, and they'll be able to figure out what house it is and be able to go from there. Can you market the full price you need to clear your purchase price? I think you can do that. You can say the contract on a 1,800 square foot house, I'm offering to let someone step into it. They can get into it for a total of X. Okay? And, so there you go. So that is, and I would not use the term wholesale fee. You're going to assign your contract, so it's not a wholesale fee, it's an assignment fee. Okay? So great questions.
Jeff, can I add to that one thing and ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Because I know a lot of people have actually emailed me about this, and I didn't quite know how to answer. So a lot of people out there bought, these guru courses, let's just call them that, right? And they say, okay, so we're going to teach you wholesaling, and you're going to go out, lock up these properties, you get them under contract, and now you start your marketing. So you post on Craigslist, put your pictures of the house, and you put up bandit signs, and you do this, you do that. So what's the fine line? Like, in other words, what's acceptable and what's not? So if you're truly doing wholesale, and I know you're the expert, so I'm asking this. So where are you crossing the line? When you're marketing a house, and I understand you market the contract, but when can you include a picture of the property, or can you never? And, just help me understand that a little bit. Like, what's right and what's not?
Sure. If you own the house, include a picture of the house.
Right.
Tell the address.
You just have it under contract. You're only under contract.
If you only have it under contract, Brian, if you only have it under contract, that's all you can market is the contract. Means you can't market the house.
So no pictures.
No pictures of the house. You could put up a generic silhouette picture if you thought if you've got this empty space in your template that says put picture here, put up a generic silhouette.
Okay.
Okay? In fact, a friend of ours has tested it and found that that is just as responsive. You know, putting up a caricature silhouette of a house is just as responsive as putting up the actual house.
Gotcha.
But here's the key. Here's the key. When somebody responds back and says, "I want to know more about the contract you have for sale," your answer is, "Great. When can I send you a copy of the contract?"
Okay.
And now they're looking at the contract. Now, will they see what you're paying for the house? Not necessarily. You can make sure that that part is covered up or whatever when you send them a copy of the contract to find out if they're interested.
Can you do that, Jeff? So I was just thinking that out loud. Like, so a lot of people on this call are going to worry about, well, if they know what I'm paying for it, maybe they're not going to want to pay me the assignment fee. So are you allowed to like black that out? You know what I mean?
I've already addressed it up front, Brian, because when I market my contract, I'm saying, listen, 1,800 square foot house can be your contract to buy an 1,800 square foot house can be yours for X.
Gotcha.
So they know what you're asking of them. So then you can mark out and hide what you're paying for it, and away you go.
Okay.
And then they can
you.
look at the contract, and as they look at the contract, here's what they need to know. They need to know, is it a valid contract? What's the underlying collateral and obligations of it? When's the closing date? What's the inspection rights that remain, and so on. And that's going to determine whether or not they want to step into your shoes on that contract. The only way they'll know to do it is by looking at the contract, not just at the house. They've got to be able to look at the contract and the house, and they can go look at the house after they've examined the contract and they want to go forward with it.
Gotcha. Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Great, great. I'm glad you asked me those questions. And Ryan Berry, I'm glad you pushed me with those questions that you asked as well. And Steve, you as well. And so for folks, now we are clearly at the max time limit that GoToWebinar was scheduled for tonight and today. So we're going to have to wrap this thing up. We're going to be doing another live call on finding deals. And I'm probably going to take some questions all over the board. That's cool. And Brian, I don't know if you can join us on the next call or not, but I'd love it, brother. But if you can't, I'll forgive you in advance. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, folks, go back into the membership site, flip right 2016 into the membership site, and you'll see the section where you found out about this call, and you'll be able to find out in advance, put it on your calendar. You'll get email reminders and registrations for it. And until the next time, peace, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks so much.